Today was day 13 of a year with God. The reading today was out of Isaiah, where God says, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you." And then he goes on and he talks about how the children of Israel were precious in his sight. And the commentary had to do with that, primarily with that phrase, "do not fear." And that's what kind of stood out to me in the passage as well. The idea of not being afraid specifically because God is with us. There are several times in the New Testament where that passage pops up again, or where that phrase pops up again. Do not be afraid. Great event happens, and the first thing is fear not. And we see this a lot around the birth of Jesus. When it's prophesied and the angel appears to Mary, and the first thing the angel says is, "Do not be afraid." And then again to the shepherds, "Do not be afraid." Just over and over this idea of do not be afraid. And it's always with that connotation that we don't need to be afraid of what life has to throw at us or what things are going on, specifically because of the idea that God is with us. And I think very often, in my personal thoughts here, I think very often our fear comes from choosing to focus on other things. We focus on our circumstances, we focus on what we're concerned about, we worry about what might happen. I think that's where a lot of our fear comes from what we focus on. If we switch to our focus and begin to focus more on the presence of God, more on His presence, His interaction in our lives, more on the relationship we have with Him, I think some of that fear starts to dissipate. And because we've now changed our focus from things that cause us fear to things that bring us security, namely our relationship with God. So, those were my thoughts on day 13.